Before we get into today's show, we got a competition going on here at Chat Sports about which NFL channel can get the most comments in the month of May. It's the last day. So, how about this? Spam whatever team in the AFC West you hate the most, and you know what? You don't have to do it just once. If you hate the Chiefs, the Raiders, or the Chargers, put that in there 1,000 times if you will, because let's light it up and let the Chiefs fans know, the Raiders or whatever magical, mythological Chargers fans exist, that you hate them the most. Sound off down below. What's going on, Broncos Country? Today's show is brought to you by Aura. It's an all-in-one digital safety company that's hooking you up with a 14-day free trial when you get started at aura.com/chatsports. I'll tell you more about their awesome service later on in the show. But first, we got the latest Broncos news and rumors, along with 5 players the Broncos could trade for after June 1st. So June 1st is a notable day in the NFL schedule, because that is when a lot of contracts have guaranteed money associated to it, and players can be moved around a lot easier. So I think before we start talking about who can they trade for, it's important to get the facts down here. And the fact is, the Broncos don't have a lot of ammunition. This is a fun show because, let's be honest, trading for players, it's just a fun thing to talk about. Does it have to be 120% realistic or a fact? Not necessarily, because you know what? When it's May 31st in the NFL offseason, you can have a little fun with some dream trade targets. Now, like I said, the Broncos, with only 5 picks as of now, they could add some or get some more with comp picks later on, but they don't have a lot to bring to the table to trade for someone like Daron Payne, for example, the defensive tackle for Washington, who is not showing up to OTAs. The rookie is sitting on the last year of his contract, and it doesn't look like Washington is envisioning him being a part of their long-term plans. He walked off the practice field about a week ago, May 24th, and he has skipped team drills over this contract dispute. And Washington, there's a lot of savings to be had, like $8.53 million worth of savings if he's traded after June 1st. Last season, the entire Washington defense regressed, right? They were really good in 2020. Didn't see that in 2021, but still, 4.5 sacks, 61 tackles altogether. That's a pretty exciting player to go out and make a trade for this late into the offseason. But the Broncos, in my opinion, they can't make a competitive offer. If Washington is going to field calls for Daron Payne, they probably will be looking for somewhere in the range of a second-round pick. I don't think they're going to get a first for him, but Denver with a third rounder, which, by the way, won't even be that good of a third rounder most likely, because Washington's going to go, oh, you've got Russell Wilson, you're going to go far. That's going to be a late third round pick right there. There's a team that can probably offer something better than the Broncos can. But what is the Broncos' biggest position of need, right? Which position would you like to see George Paton trade for? I guess that's what I want to ask you. Is it offensive tackle? We'll look at some later on. Is it a linebacker? Stay tuned for that. Or if you want to go to the field, anything else, put F for the field down below in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Speaking of offensive tackle, what about Andre Dillard, the Eagles' first-round pick that has just been a little edged out of the starting lineup? We'll actually lump these two together. Matt Peart, the offensive tackle, also from the NFC East, who has not maybe looked the part of what the Giants would have hoped for. Now, the reason why we're talking about tackles is the depth chart here, which we've seen this look before here on the Broncos offensive line. Billy Turner has not been participating in OTAs, as he's still got that lingering knee injury that ultimately was probably the reason why he got cut from the Packers, because he failed a physical, but we'll extrapolate on that more later on. But first, let's address Dillard, right? That was the first guy we looked at here, who, according to Pro Football Focus last year, was pretty darn good. For him to be ranked 45th out of 83 and not be a starting tackle on his own team, that tells you two things. One, the Eagles have a very good offensive line, and two, that would be an awesome player to pick up right here. 69, nice 0.5 overall grade from PFF. So Dillard would be a great piece, and the Eagles, they've been rumored to be trading Dillard for quite some time right now. They want to get an asset for a guy who's very good, but just doesn't have a spot to start on their roster. As for the other NFC East team, Matt Peart, who the Giants I've always been hoping to get a little bit more out of him. Now, unfortunately for him, he tore his ACL late in the season last year. So while we talk about finding, I wouldn't say a replacement for Billy Turner, but because of Billy Turner's knee injury, does it make the most sense to be trading for someone who's also injured right now? Not really, but there's not a ton of options out there. Like Mekhi Becton, for example, he's coming off an injury last year for the Jets. I don't think you're going to go back to Juwan James or you're going to land Laramie Tunsil because you don't have the capital to pick up those guys. The reason why I highlighted these two offensive linemen is it's just to monitor Billy Turner's injury, okay? If OTAs turns into mandatory minicamp and that turns into training camp and he still hasn't practiced with the team, I'm going to be a little panicked because he's on a new team. Well, it's weird because he's coming back to his old team. He's also coming back with a lot of his coaches from Green Bay, right? Hack and Uden. So he's got some familiarity. He's not starting from fresh, which makes me a little more, calmer on the situation. But still, he's got a new playbook. He's got a new quarterback. You'd like to see your starting right tackle get ready for week one and not have his first live reps be at week one. We'll check out more trade targets in just a moment, but Aura, like I said, is our proud presenting sponsor today, and they have financial fraud protection for you and identity theft protection. So take a lesson from Dwight. It's not a joke, Jim. Get yourself started today at Aura when you go to aura.com/chatsports and you get a 14-day free trial. Listen, we shop, we bank, we do everything online. In fact, we're doing more online than we ever have before. So make sure you are protected when you are online. Like I said, 14-day free trial when you get started at aura.com/chatsports. They're going to protect your device. They're going to protect everything you do online, along with their family, up to 5 people. The link's in the comments and the description. You don't want to miss it. Get started today and thank us later. My next post-June 1st trade target is Deion Jones. If you watched any of our videos from this past Memorial Day weekend, he was a popular name in them, right? The Falcons have been rumored to want to move on from their second-round pick a couple of years ago, who the previous regime gave a huge contract extension to. He's not participating in offseason workouts as he had a shoulder surgery after the season. To me, this sounds like the Falcons, this isn't about the injury. They want to move on from him, and he probably wants to move on from them. Now, he's got a big cap hit this year, $20 million. But after June 1st, if he were to be traded, the team that receives him, a little under $10 million. It's not too bad for someone who the last 4 seasons has been awesome. When you think of the Falcons, the last thing you think of is defense, except for him. Like, Deion Jones and A.J. Terrell have been the only good thing about the Dirty Birds on that side of the football. My issue with him, and this is something I've vocalized before, is $10 million for a linebacker worth it? Like, the NFL this day and age is not geared like it was a couple decades ago where you want a big middle linebacker. They want speed. They want athleticism. And they don't want to pay someone $10 million who's just going to stand in the middle of the field and not help out as much in pass protection, for example, where they can put a nickel or a dime on the field who can help out a lot more in that department. We'll have more trade targets in just a moment, but help us reach 9,000 subscribers by hitting that big red button and subscribing today. If you haven't already, we need just over 900 subs to do it. I want to get there before training camp opens up. That's my goal. Help me fulfill that by subscribing and getting free daily Broncos content. Hit that big red button. To kind of put a knot and a bow on the Deion Jones segment, though, like I mentioned, here's what the finances look like, because this is important, right? This is what the post-June 1st is all about. So he's got a dead cap hit this year for $9.3 million if he's traded after June 1st. 2023 is $5.3. Now, the Falcons, by the way, have more dead cap. They've got more dead people than the White Walkers in Game of Thrones. Like, that's how bad it is with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones still on their books. But they do have some nice savings. Do they want to save the money? Sure. Are they going to use it? Probably not. They're going to suck this year. So maybe they just want to get a pick for next year and go all in on drafting Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud in 2023 and having extra assets to get some complementary players for that young quarterback to work with. My 5th and final trade target, I keep it in the linebacker group. It's Christian Kirksey, a guy who's bounced around the league for a while, right? Browns, Packers, Now with the Texans, he signed a 2-year contract last year, entering the final year of his deal. Last season for Houston, it was hard to be notable whatsoever on that Texans team, right? They were bad, guys. They really were. They needed everything this offseason, and I thought their coaching staff did better than the expectations lined out for them. But I go back to this depth chart where I look at the interior linebacker room, and Alex Singleton and Josie Jewell currently slated to be your starters. I'm all right, Josie Jewell. Singleton for the Eagles last year was more of a special teams guy, but if he's ready for a bigger role, so be it. But there's a huge drop-off after those guys, right? And you can't confidently say Jewell's going to play 17 games. It's the NFL. You can't say that for anyone, but especially when someone comes off a season where they got injured, it's very thin at that linebacker position after the starters. That's one of my bigger fears right now. And Vic Fangio was awesome for the Broncos on that side of the football last year. Let's give credit where credit is due. That Broncos defense was beaten up, right? He lost his starting linebacker room as a whole, okay? We can go from side to side. Von Miller, Josie Jewell, A.J. Johnson, Bradley Chubb, 4 of his 11 starters wiped very quickly into the season. Once Von Miller was traded, they were all gone, okay? So I'm a little concerned with how thin it is at that spot. I like to see some extra support, some extra depth there. One last time, here are the trade targets. In case you forgot, we went over Daron Payne, Andre Dillard, Matt Peart, Deion Jones, Christian Kirksey. When I'm thinking of what's an actual realistic trade, when it all comes down to, I'd probably look first at offensive tackle. Wonder if you can get a day 3 pick for one of these guys, or give up a day 3 pick. The Broncos, they don't have a ton to offer, but if there's a team out there that just wants this guy for whatever reason off their books, off their team, and they'll take a future 7th rounder or a future 6th rounder, I'd be pretty interested in doing that. Now, if you are still watching today's show, then you're probably a real one. You're an OG, right? You watch start to finish. So I want to show you guys some love before we get to the final segment. Type DB4L, right? Denver Bronco for life, down below in the comments section. And I'm going to be giving shout-outs to everyone that does that on a future Broncos Breakdown. You probably have already seen this news, but it would be malpractice if I didn't mention it in case you just, you're living on an island and this is your only way to get Broncos news. But Mike Kliss tweeted out that the Arapahoe County District Attorney's Office, has filed a motion to dismiss all charges against Jerry Jeudy, blah, 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 yada, 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 shot to Seinfeld, where he received 2 misdemeanor non-physical contact domestic violence charges. Listen, a suspension or even any kind of discipline seems very unlikely, right? His partner, his girlfriend, went into the courtroom and asked for all the charges to be dismissed. He had to spend a night in jail because that's just protocol in Colorado. So don't read too much into that whatsoever. It sounds like it was a dispute that probably escalated beyond what, the 2 parties involved wish it would have. I wasn't there, so I won't speculate on it more than that. But the news to take away from this is he's not in trouble. It'll be up to the NFL. He's not in trouble with the law. It'll be up to the NFL disciplinary committee if they want to see if he violated the personal conduct policy. I don't think it's going to result in that because there was no physical altercation between the 2 of them. So I don't see a suspension in the future for Jerry Jeudy. Hit that big red button and subscribe. Like I said, trying to reach 9,000 subs here on the channel. I greatly appreciate all of you that clicked onto today's show, and I'll see you later with more Broncos news and rumors.